Everybody, JJ here, and come back to you again. It's Friday. It's time for another video where I bore everyone to tears. Maybe I'll talk about something you might be interested in, but it's all interesting to me. So I mentioned in another video that I did. I would have released it a couple weeks ago now. It was regarding my electronic drums and some things with my setup and stuff like that. I touched upon a project that I've been working on, and it's been a really challenging project and a really interesting project. It's called Pyrite X. And it's with myself and two other members, and it was a very, very interesting and a very different project. And I'm going to do another video where I dig into maybe like some of the processes that I used in regards to drum parts and arrangements and things like that. But for the time being, I wanted to make a few videos regarding just some albums and some bands that I really, really look to for inspiration for this. The project is an alternative rock, like electronic, like it has many different kind of elements to it than, your typical kind of rock drums, or even the way that I approach my YouTube videos when I do my covers. And I really wanted to take a different approach, and as far as even songwriting and things like that go, I wanted to really try to challenge myself to step outside of these boxes and these constraints that a lot of us put ourselves in sometimes. I've always found that there needs to be a balance between just having an open-ended kind of like, you can do anything you want. Sometimes when that's the case, it's hard to find a direction for certain projects. And so this kind of started out as an anything and everything, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks sort of thing. But when I've really kind of found a good way to go about things, I decided to kind of stay in that same wheelhouse for the entirety of the album, and it was very, very interesting in so many aspects. And I want to get into a video talking more about that when the actual album is ready to go. It's pretty close. Mixes are done, mastering's done. I believe as of right now, towards the end of January 2025, I think it's close to being sent, and for pressing, we're gonna do a limited run vinyl press, and then obviously it'll be available on streaming platforms as well too. So I'm excited to share that with everyone if you're interested. But for now, in today's video, I thought I would maybe talk about some of the bands I looked to for inspiration for this project, and some of the bands, I should say, are bands, like I was into them when I was young, and maybe I drifted away from them a bit, but the albums were always kind of, in the back of my mind when it came to these things. And I found as, I was going through and doing like demos and stuff, I was coming up with these ideas, and they would be vaguely familiar for some reason, and I couldn't really place what they were. And then I started looking through like, some of my record collection and some of my CDs, and at these great albums that were not so much under the radar, but they were kind of, just these super influential albums and musical pieces that were released. And, I would latch onto them for a while, and then as a young person, you're always looking for the next thing, and, you're always on the lookout for the next band that you're gonna, latch onto, so you can be, whatever, the cool guy in your friends group that knows all the, the innovative bands or all the cutting edge stuff. And so a handful of these ideas from the Pyrite X project pretty much lifted directly from some of the influences I have. It's hard not to do that kind of thing. And, you know, they always say, you know, good art is nothing but, you know, thievery without telling where you got it from. So I'm kind of breaking that rule, but, you know, it's drums. There's no copyright on this kind of stuff, so too bad. Anyway, the first album that I pulled out of my record collection, I happen to have this on vinyl, which is pretty cool because if any of you know, it's like finding albums from the mid-90s or on original vinyl pressings is pretty hard. So I got lucky and found this one, and when I saw it, you know, it had been an album I maybe hadn't listened to, and at the time I found this, it probably had been 10 years maybe since I had really given this album a listen to. And as soon as I saw the cover, it was just like these memories of just you know, listening to this over and over again, and reading interviews with the drummer and Modern Drummer, and his approach to electronics and programming and sequencing, but also mixed into the heavy metal kind of soundscape and you know, like the industrial kind of age. And this band, my first introduction to them was a song called Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck. And that's more kind of a straightforward, you know, just heavy metal song, double bass stuff. And so hearing that song was my first exposure to the band Prong. And so that record, I ended up getting that CD. I can't even remember the name of it now, but you can look it up. And it's very typical. You know, there's some great songs on it and stuff like that. And, you know, I listened to it quite a bit as well. And then when this came out, because I was such a fan of that album, instantly I was like, well, this is going to be, you know, more of the same perhaps. And then I remember seeing the video for the album is Rude Awakening, and the first single off the record was track 3, which is also Rude Awakening. And I remember seeing the video for this. And, you know, this album came out in 1996, so you're in the midst of, you know, the alternative, and like Metallica had put out the Load album, and there was kind of this dismissal at the time of you know, of traditional kind of heavy metal. And a lot of people washing their hands of it, more or less. It's not a great way to phrase it, but it was out of fashion. And so when I saw the video for Rude Awakening, it was this very like artsy, you know, it had a real distinct look to it. The guys in the band had really kind of streamlined their look, and, you know, it was kind of in the era of shorter hair, and, you know, like Charlie from Anthrax had cut his hair at that time, and a handful of other guys. And, you know, it was a very slick look to the band. And, you know, leather coats, like these, it was like Reservoir Dogs, the movie, but it was, you know, guys in bands essentially adopting that style, kind of a, you know, a reprise of the 70s and things like that. And so watching the video was very captivating. And then the song kicks in, and it's, you know, it is, I guess you'd call it like a more straight ahead rock song. But it had these electronic elements that I didn't really pick up on from the first Prong album that I had. And I was very intrigued by what was going on. So obviously got the CD and you know, delved right into the CD. And from top to bottom, this CD and this album is just phenomenal. I'm just looking at the track listings now, and it's just, you know, like the amount of hours I just spent digesting this album over and over again, just top to bottom, no songs to skip. You know, in my opinion, it's like everything is great. And it had just this perfect like marriage of you know, electronic meets industrial, and the Nine Inch Nails thing, and the heavy drumming, and like all these amazing things coming together, and creating this. And then, you know, the artwork is very like, I mean, it's, you know, I couldn't even tell you, Russian, it looks like Russian propaganda stuff. It's very, very strange. There's, all these crazy pictures of like, just like the nuclear age, and just like, it just has this thing about it that's just so like, the album has this kind of like, almost in its simplicity, like this militaristic approach, and the artwork very much kind of reflects that. I don't know the lyrics, I never paid much attention to it, but it's a possibility this could be like a thematic or a concept album or something like that, which was, getting back to the project I've been working on, Pyrite X. It's very much, in this kind of, themes and album art, tying the thing together, and I love those kind of things. I think it adds so much to the music when you have the package that goes along with it. And just going through this, and produced by Terry Date, one of the greatest producers, definitely from that era, but definitely in hindsight, he's one of the guys responsible for the sounds of the 90s. And Ted Parsons was the drummer, from Prong, and I forget exactly his background, but he had been heavily involved, from reading some interviews and articles about him. He had been heavily involved in a lot of like, electronic bands and programming and stuff like that. And in my opinion, this album was like the culmination of whatever styles and music he had been working on, and he brought this together. A very interesting tidbit is that one of the other albums that I'll get into in another video, one of the other albums that was a huge influence on me regarding my new project, the bass player is in this band and he's in the other band too. And his name is Paul Raven. And he's unfortunately died now. I don't remember when, but it's been a few years for sure. But that guy's influence as a bass player, just based on the music and the bands he's been in, is quite stunning. Just like phenomenal. I couldn't tell you how much of the songwriting he's involved in, but the fact that the bands he did play in, Prong being one, and his original band is Killing Joke. That's where I first knew Paul Raven from, was Killing Joke. He played bass in that band, and I would think that he had obviously a lot to do with the songwriting, because when he was not in either of these bands anymore, they just weren't the same. It's almost like, any important member leaves a band and it changes, and I think that's definitely happened with Prong, and it definitely happened with Killing Joke as well. But yeah, just incredible, and it's just like, the themes and the sounds and the marriage of programming and sequencing and live drums being mixed in there as well. And this was a very, very important record to me. It still is very important. It always seems to happen where, you have these things and you listen to the crap out of them. Then you move on to the next thing, kind of forget, but it's really amazing that you can not listen to something for like 10 years and then put it on, and it's like, I could sit down and play almost every song off of this still. I really haven't lost my memory of the songs or anything like that. And this record sounds just as fresh today as it did when it was first released. This isn't like your, 80s kind of like heavy metal where it's very much of its period. This was cutting edge in the 90s, and if you put this on today, it's just as cutting edge. There'd be a distinct possibility someone could put this on thinking it's a modern record made in the last 2 or 3 years, and that's a testament to how amazing that this record is. So I encourage you, if you can pick the spots, if anyone is interested when the project I'm doing, the Pyrite X album comes out, if anyone can, those really investigative people out there, if you guys can tie things together and see where influences come from, I love doing that kind of stuff. And I would see my favorite drummers, and they would talk about their influences, and I would go back and listen to those albums, and I would hear those influences coming through. Lars and Filthy Phil Taylor from Motorhead. It's like you can clearly see Lars's influence in Phil's drumming and his setup and all those kinds of things. So yeah, this is a very near and dear album to me. This one is really cool. It's it's the original pressing from the 90s, I want to say, and it's a Coke bottle green vinyl, which was pretty cool. So yeah, this record's amazing. So I encourage you, if you haven't checked out this band and you're at all interested, if you're a fan of, you know, Nine Inch Nails or Marilyn Manson or just anything like that has you know, electronic elements, Muse, but this definitely rides on the darker edge. You know, like just has this really like lush kind of dark vibe to it, which is really, really cool. So Prong, Rude Awakening. This is one of the most influential albums I've ever had in my life, and if you haven't checked it out, I hope you do, and I hope you take the same inspiration from it that I did. All right, thanks for watching. This has been the one about Rude Awakening. Cheers.